We are into the groove at 5 o'clock, and why wouldn't we be? Because check this out. This is not just a creator studio. This is a massive pool party soon to be happening in the background. What could you wish for? It is just so amazing. And even more amazing, hey, I have a guest. I'm joined by Kate Lovejoy, Chief Performance Officer at Addictive, and an experienced growth strategist and operations leader. Kate has worked on campaigns for hundreds of top grossing mobile games, including King, Zynga, EA, Machine Zone. Kate tells me in her current role at Addictive, she gets, quote, excited about finding ways for mobile app developers to retain, activate, and upsell their existing user base. And Kate, I have to tell you, I get excited having you here with me today and getting to meet you because we had such a great call in prep. And then I decided, well, we could go straight into the podcast, but everyone's more than a title, and you certainly are. One thing we won't read on LinkedIn, and a source of joy, I would hope, is that you're pregnant. You're making a baby, so to speak, as you're making mobile app marketers and audiences, growing them here at the event. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today. Super excited to be speaking with you.
So maybe your first podcast, I don't know. Is it your first podcast?
Not my first podcast.
Okay.
Over the past few years, I've been on Singular, 2.5 Gamers, Business of Apps, quite a few.
Making the rounds.
Yeah, making the rounds, but this is my first time doing a live podcast at MAU, so
and
happy
there you
to
go.
be doing it.
And the first time at the 5 o'clock club with
Exactly.
MobileGroove. But you're no stranger to the mic, right? Because you used to do spoken poetry. That is beyond cool. Tell me about that.
I did. The content was a little bit different. Believe it or not, my poems were not about ROAS or ROI.
You could rhyme it though.
Yeah, exactly. But my mission was kind of similar, right? In doing that, it was all about engaging audiences, which is what I do every day in my role at a retargeting company, and what I'm trying to do in our chat here today.
So it runs full circle.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you have the mic right now. Here we are. We're in the groove. So aside from poetry, aside from maybe hanging out at the pool, what else do you do when you want to get into the groove, get into the zone?
Yeah, what gets me into the groove? I would say very niche podcasts get me into the groove.
Okay.
So right now I'm listening to a playlist rather of department stores in the 90s, music that would be playing at a department store in the 90s. So
you are very niche, Kate.
Exactly.
I'm going to have to follow up on that
Please,
one.
it's on
it's
Spotify.
Like, this is not Muzak. This is like real deal, right? So I do have to talk about what else gets you into the zone. Obviously helping mobile marketers, because you told me that yourself. But let's just pick up with that and tell me a little bit more about Addictive.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Addictive, we see ourselves as a mobile growth engine. We handle everything after the install, helping you with retention, activation, and upselling your user base. So we are a retargeting DSP. That's really been our bread and butter over the past couple years. But recently we've been expanding what we're doing. And so still with that mission of enabling growth for games, but looking a little different. And so today we'll talk about churn prediction, which is one of the areas that we've been exploring.
Yeah, I got very excited about that. When you brought that up, I was just thinking, you're making retargeting great again.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was just on the spur of the moment, it came to me.
You should be on our marketing team. That's fantastic.
There you go. T-shirts are coming. T-shirts are coming. So it is important, though, and it's important to have a little bit of humor because it is sort of doom and gloom out there.
You hear it left and right, lots of doom and gloom.
But the big wins don't come easy. However, we know that it's all focused on doing what you do better, keeping the users you have, making certain they're valuable, making certain that they engage, and understanding, as you do now, when they're about to leave, cut it off at the bud. Right. So what are you seeing? Where do you seeing that marketers struggle?
Yeah, so to go back to what you were saying about the kind of doom and gloom, I think it's important to talk about that. Privacy is a huge topic in our industry, particularly for retargeting. And one thing I want to reassure folks is that on Android, retargeting is going to very much be very possible. So, we have this Android privacy rules that are coming at some point in a year, 2 years. And I've been really impressed with the way that Google has been soliciting feedback from the industry. They're working with vendors like us to understand how do we make sure that we can do our business in a privacy safe environment that protects that end user's data. So, they're coming out with protected audiences, formerly known as Pledge, within the next year or two. And this is a way for us to continue doing retargeting, to continue going after users who have, who you find valuable, just in a more protected way. So I think the doom and gloom is a bit misplaced.
So we're both optimists.
Yes, absolutely.
We are indeed. And one thing is to always fight smart. I love that phrase. It's one I use quite often, which is about the whole idea of being data-driven and strategic. And it starts also with understanding the way things are done in order to change them. You have to understand things in order to change them. And that's what you've done because, hey, understanding audiences, they're changing. They always were changing, but it's extreme. Now we understand it's not static. It will never be static. And rules-based is, of course, not the whole story. Not to throw it out, not the whole story. What's your approach?
So we hear a lot from marketers that they struggle with this problem of retention. This is something that's plagued our industry from the beginning. We all know the scary figures out there that 90-something% of your users will be gone within 30 days post-install. That's a problem. And only a small portion of users in a mobile game are typically payers. And so our whole business is about helping to address those two problems. The way most of our clients are running campaigns today is with, just as you mentioned, kind of rule-based segmentation. So they'll come to us and they'll say that they want to target users who are 7 days lapsed. Let's get an ad in front of them. What we find is this works pretty well. 7 days of inactivity is a good guess for a user who's probably gone. But what we're moving to, and what I'm really excited about, is using more predictive methods for defining that audience base. So instead of just saying, okay, as soon as it's been 7 days, let's get an ad in front of them, let's move towards something where we predict the right moment to show an ad to a specific user before they're gone forever, when you still have a chance to keep them engaged.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. It's different in gaming, but I remember when people were talking about the fault in rules-based thinking. Because, for example, what if you have a healthcare app? And people are not always coming every 7 days and saying, yes, I really need to check in the app. No, they don't. Because we're hoping their best of health. That's why. So, churn prediction, that's what you're excited about. That's what the industry is really excited about, because it's all about understanding the signs of churn, which I want to delve into, because there are like pre-indicators of indicators.
Exactly.
You have this as a product, just recently launched, off the shelf. What does that mean? What does that mean to the marketer?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we've been really focused on this problem of retention, and we are in this niche of retargeting. That's what we've been very focused on. And so our models and our data scientists have very much been focused on solving this problem and have come with some good solutions. So what we have is a model that scores your users on a score from 0 to 1, so 0.1, 0.2, et cetera, based on their likelihood to churn. And what we suggest is that you then target those users in the highest likelihood to churn bucket to make sure they don't actually go away from your app.
And what are you doing? You're looking at what they're doing in the app, maybe what they're not doing in the app, or outside of the app, and that's all feeding into the model, right?
All of that. So really coming from your organic data of what your users are doing, what levels they're completing, how frequently they're opening. All those kind of signals are all being fed into the model, and then we output this score.
Well, that is interesting, because then the next question I have to ask, of course, is how marketers can create a segmentation based on this. You're telling them, okay, this user, 1 to 10, they're a 10.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a good thing. I don't know. 10's good. 1, something's happening. Then they need to build a segmentation model that will say, okay, when I see this happening, I need to do these things. How does that happen?
Yeah, so the way it works is we have these, these models on our side. We're generating an audience list via an API, and we can just run campaigns directly, kind of with the push of a button, targeting those users.
Okay.
What's interesting about this model is that we can run your standard retargeting campaigns. So say you have that 7-day lapsed, that can be your evergreen strategy, and we run churn prediction on top of that. Meaning that you have those standard campaigns, except you also want to go after the users who have that highest likelihood to churn. Them you want to target whether they're active, inactive, whatever it may be. So that's how we set it up on our side.
So it sounds like a little bit like a hybrid, because I can build on top of it. I can tinker, I can do my thing, or I can say, you know what, Kate, I can't handle this. Let's give it to Addictive, and then you run it in your way. That is very cool. So how about the accuracy of this?
Such an important question.
Yes, indeed. That's why I'm asking it. What about the accuracy
of it? I
of
think
it?
a lot of folks should be talking about predictive analytics, and the accuracy is the most important part of that. Do these models work? Because we're doing prediction, we can actually measure if our predictions were correct or incorrect.
Yeah.
And so we see an 85% accuracy at minimum on our models. So if we say a user is going to be gone, chances are they're gone.
And then, of course, because it's within the technology and the platform, you will be learning. So
Absolutely.
that 85 will be increasing as well.
And it's app by app. We do see some apps that have an even higher percentage there.
So let's talk about that, because another thing you do that I think is very valuable is you see the early signs of churn, but you're also building models around this, trying to help people understand it, help them navigate the retargeting strategy. So walk me through this, the data you look at, what you're doing.
Absolutely. So when we are running a retargeting campaign, we really think the first step is understanding your user behavior. So really what we do is we take a deep dive into the organic data. We try and figure out what kind of patterns there are, who are your most valuable users, how do we get more users to behave like those valuable ones in the funnel, what are the drop-off points. And before we spend any media with a client, we run this very in-depth analysis to figure out, can we support them with retargeting? Is that, and what does that look like? So examining all that data is a super important part of what we do.
It's also free, by the way, right?
It is, yes, it is.
That's what blew me away. I was like, okay, you really want to help people to predict churn. They'll give you that as insights, and you'll say, based on that, I mean, I'm just curious. It's just launching, but have you done the predictive analysis before? Have you said to someone, look, you really need to do X, or no, you're not ready. You can go back and do your homework and come back, and we'll do it together.
Absolutely, and that's why we offer this for free, the pre-launch analysis, because we want to run campaigns that are successful. I work on the post-sale side primarily with teams, and we invest a lot in our retargeting programs for clients. We're building rich media. We're running all these in-depth analysis on a weekly basis. We do incrementality testing, and so all of that is extensive. And so we want to run campaigns that make sense for us and that make sense for our clients. And examining that data in the pre-launch analysis enables us to do that successfully. So it's in our benefit too.
You also go very granular into the data. Can you give me an idea of how you've done this, or an example? Maybe, a company says, I want to, for example, upsell to payers, how that works, how you actually get that deep, and then that's strategic as well.
Absolutely. So that is, I think, one of the most successful audiences that you can run, upselling your payers. Those are folks that have opened their wallet before. We can get them to do that more times for you. And so if anyone was coming to me asking, what campaign should I run? If I can only run one, it's that. The type of things that we look at to figure out exactly who to go for there would be, for example, time between install and first purchase. We want to understand that, so we understand how to get more payers to make that first purchase. We'll also take a look at the time between purchases, which is something that often surprises our clients, how frequently users make purchases. Typically, we see that a payer in a gaming app is making purchases every few days. So if you wait 2 weeks after they've made a purchase to get an ad in front of them, that's going to be too late. They've lost that thirst to keep making purchases. And so we'll run figures like that to help define the right audience to go after.
So we talk about retargeting, all the benefits. It really helps to know what you're doing, who you're retargeting. There's nothing worse, and I've seen it so many times in all the research I was doing, nothing worse than retargeting someone who it does not need to be retargeted, because then it just sounds like you don't know what you're doing or you're annoying them.
Yeah.
And that is a risk. What about when retargeting is counterproductive? Do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in gaming, I would say a low LTV app doesn't make sense to do retargeting. Okay. So if you are a hyper casual advertiser who is just kind of playing a margin game where you're acquiring an install, maybe monetizing within the first few sessions, just go out and get more installs. You don't need to do retargeting on that user. However, if you have a game where you have a valuable subset of users, that's where retargeting is really critical.
So more like casual, but hyper casual, even hybrid casual. I have to ask you because you look at the signs of churn. Now, I don't know if you're going to tell me all of them.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but I would love to hear, because that is exciting to understand, the red flags, the green flags. We all can benefit from your insights. Give me a few examples.
Yeah, so indicators of churn are really, it has to do with opening and not opening the app is a major signal. At what cadence, and this is all things that are being looked at by machine learning, not something a human is looking at in the pre-launch analysis that we spoke about, more models determining the behaviors based on those signals.
Okay. Well, we do have to be wrapping up, but I wanted to not just think about how you're helping the marketers.
Yeah.
You're obviously very helpful, very, very good-hearted is the feeling I get here, Kate, but I want to unleash the other side of you. I want you to be edgy, okay?
All right.
Okay, tough love for your marketers, brutal advice that you have to give them right now. Dish out some tough love.
One thing is, I would say stop taking the path of least resistance. I think that there was a time when we used to say no one got fired for putting their budget in Facebook and Google.
I remember.
Yeah, people used to say that, and I just don't think that's the case anymore. I think you need to be willing to test and iterate and try new things and put test budget against things. I think about our incrementality testing, where we can set up these holdout groups to do this really interesting A/B test for, is your activity incremental, yes or no? That analysis is only useful when you're looking at it holistically. So you need to look at that and attributed data and this in-app behavior, and you have to have the courage to draw some conclusions from that. That process is very different from just plucking a day 7 ROAS target out of thin air and assigning that to a partner. But the former is going to be much more productive for you. So I would really just say, don't take the path of least resistance. Try some stuff and be willing to.
I like that. Be bold. Okay. Marketers want to be badass. Again, an edgy answer. Here is what you are missing.
Challenge your vendors in a meaningful way. Personally, I love to run head-to-head tests against competitors, and this is really easy to do with retargeting. You just split the audience between the two and see who wins. So I really encourage marketers to do this. Push your partners to make sure they're delivering the best performance possible, and this can be done. And Addictive is ready to win.
So confident, you're ready to get it. I said at the beginning, it was a time before when you had the mic. Now we can give the mic back to you. So we're not doing poetry, we're doing something else. You have the mic. You can express your opinion about any aspect of the mobile marketing industry, mobile apps, games. You have it. You have the mic. You end it. Kate, what would you say?
I would say, kind of echoing what I said earlier, let's get to testing. Let's run some retargeting campaigns. Let's target active users and upsell them. You have this valuable user base. Make sure that you're making the most of them.
Kate, how can that not be inspiring?
You're too kind, Peggy.
So you are definitely in the right place. And great interview, and above all, let's hope for some great results, because that's the point. Get out there, test, be brave, be bold. How can you not do it with Kate? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Peggy. It was such a pleasure chatting with you.
Can I do it?
Yeah.
Hey.
There we go.